Well, now, hello. Welcome to the Being Fine Facebook group, talking about the forthcoming book, Being Fine. I'm very, very excited because I've got one of the authors. We've got up to 20 co-authors of this book. I'm one of them, but I'm not talking about my chapter tonight. I'm going to get Maria to talk about her chapter. But before I get her to introduce herself, I would say I'm from Yorkshire and I like to be practical and cut to the point. And I've done some research about what you're planning to write. I know your chapter's a work in progress, Maria. You've had a go at it and you're going to be still crafting it a bit more. But I've had the pleasure of seeing some of your thoughts on paper. And I've done some research with some of my female associates. When I say associates, my daughter, my wife, and my sister. And together we've come up with some questions for you. And I thought it'd be really good to get through as many questions as we can in the next 20 minutes or so. How's that sound?
Love it.
Good. So, Maria, tell us a little bit briefly then about yourself and why you wanted to contribute to this wonderful book, which is to help particularly men with their mental health.
Wow. Okay. Hi, Steve. I'm going to challenge myself to answer the question in 2 minutes.
Go on then.
Really, really quick. So I was born into civil war, mass genocide in Chile, South America, as you can tell by my accent.
Yeah.
And we most unfortunately lost my father to that very unhumanistic regime. So we came to England when I was 6 years old, and I had to learn English and just get with the program. So since it began, my life has been an SH1T show. It's been really horrible. It's been really hard. Depressed, anxious, angry, everything. So it's taken me my beautiful long life of 47 beautiful years to realize that one of the biggest things that creates freedom is actually to not be in denial. And why I'm particularly interested in men in that is because I've observed many men in my life suffer profusely because of the constraints of the male in this world and what that creates, what that squeezes, what that allows, what that doesn't allow. So does that, those two elements.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes?
That's good. And I know you have a day job as well, don't you? When we're not in the situation we're in now, right? Yeah. Which gives you some insights because I know you've done a lot of work with the corporate environment. You've hung out with a lot of men, so you know what you're talking about.
That's right.
Know what you're talking about.
That's right. I have.
Let's cut to chase then.
Cut to the quick.
In no particular order.
Show me the money. Show me the money, Steve.
Here's my first question, having had a look at your draft chapter and showed it to a few people, right?
Okay.
So you just said then as well that your greatest learning is that denial causes emotional pain, right? When we deny something, it causes emotional pain. So my first question is, how can a person recognize when, first of all, they're suffering from denial, and then what advice would you give them to deal with it? So how do you recognize you're suffering from denial? And I know there's probably many ways, but what would be one or two ways you could deal with it once you recognize it?
That's a really lovely question. On the one hand, it's a trick question because if someone's in denial, they're not aware of it.
Exactly.
But to be practical about it, when I'm suffering from denial is when how I feel and and what I'm telling myself in my head is different. Okay, that's really simple. So, for example, I'm feeling angry. For example, so I'm feeling angry, rah, and in my head, imagine that's my head, right? And my head is going, "You should accept everything and be positive, be positive." And I'm going, "But I'm being angry, rah." So the two things, so me and my body, what the communication my body's giving me and what my head's telling me are very, very different. So that just causes lots of friction and emotional pain and illness, disease.
So one way of noticing, so if I was to paraphrase that, then one way of noticing in denial is when you've got this kind of conflict of some kind in terms of how you're feeling and maybe what you're saying to yourself. So you need to be sensitive to that. So once you become aware of it, then I know it's a long path. What's one or two things we can do to start to because I think you have a very different view. I think, as you said there, a lot of people go, well, just be more positive or just do whatever. And I know you have a different view about recognizing it and kind of sitting in the in the denial. So just tell us, like, once you've recognized it now, what's the next step then, would you say?
So I just think being positive is like, or accepting what is, for example, is putting icing over a mud pie.
Okay.
It's probably okay in the moment. Like, say I'm in a business meeting or I'm giving a presentation or something like big and grown up and important, then like just breathe and brace myself and just survive that situation. Then when I'm in a safe space, such as my sofa, for example, or out for a walk, then I can just have an honest conversation with myself. And it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's the opposite to what everybody says. The simplicity is, it's okay to feel angry. I'm here with you.
That was like your light bulb moment, wasn't it, really?
That's the thing. So, for example, I also used to be in a spiritual cult. That's another story in another book. But again, there we were taught and trained to just be peaceful and not angry, actually. Not angry, which I believe other spiritual practices teach, which I think is just very emotionally unhealthy. So when I was in that dynamic, so on top of all the angry life and trying to deal with that, I had loads more layers of spiritual conditioning of thou shalt not be angry, thou have to be peaceful and kind and loving and accepting. And so what the external is telling me, or really the thoughts in my head, are actually, in my experience, social conditioning.
Right. So
and
when you go down
advice, go on.
Yeah, what I was going to say, so when you go down that route, again, this is just my northern, trying to get an understanding of this. You're kind of wrapping more and more layers around the onion then, is what you're saying. Like, so instead of dealing with the thing in the middle, so in that case, using that particular path you're going down with spiritual training, people saying be peaceful, be whatever, okay.
Love what is.
Love what is and accept. So you're just basically just wrapping more and more blankets, comfort around it, but you're not dealing with the pain in the middle, right? Cool. Well, it's funny you should say that you were on that spiritual adventure, because we're all kind of learning all the time, aren't we? Because the next question I've got here from my researchers, the ladies in my life, right, is this. They all said this. I don't know if I'd use the word love, but they said, and particularly my sister said, I love the term soul adventurer. Soul adventurer. What does that mean to you, and why is it important?
Okay, so it's my reframe on the term spiritual warrior.
Okay.
So spiritual warrior is just, for me, just makes me feel like, oh, that's hard work, that's painful, that's dangerous. But actually, I see life as SH1T, as mine has been, as an adventure.
Right.
It's an adventure of learning. It's an adventure of growing, and the highs and the perceived lows are all part of that. So I, for example, find it really exciting and fascinating when I'm very, very angry. For example, when I'm really triggered, and I do it deliberately, I wind myself up on purpose by going to the supermarket and reading the news headlines on the papers, right? And I wind myself up, and I'm fascinated by the fire in my belly, by how my breathing changes, by what I sense in my body, by what my intuition tells me.
Yeah.
So that's the soul adventurer. It's an adventure that I'm watching, absolutely riveted and fascinated. Why? Because I do not label that is good and that is bad, because it's not.
Okay.
It's just an experience, and
it's just an experience.
It's not even that. At the baseline, it's just an energy. It's just an energy. Like it's just sunny or it's just cold. It's just a feeling. It's just an energy. And when I take away the labels, I'm free, and I can observe it, and I can choose. And I'm not going to make myself wrong about how I feel about something that's really natural.
So it's interesting, this the position you take on this, because, like I say, if you look at just most of the self-help books, of which I've written one, and all the rest of it, they're counter to that, don't they? So they would all say, a lot would say, why would you put yourself in a position to make yourself deliberately angry and then observe what you're doing, right?
Because I'm enlightened, that's why.
Yeah, so I just think it's an interesting thing. Right.
Because I
again, being from Keighley, which is in Yorkshire, right, here's the next one. So It's interesting. I've been there's another platform that's just been launched, which will be nameless, but it's just an audio platform. And I was on that trying it out the other night. I won't name what it is, but we can talk because we're on Facebook now, right? Let's promote Facebook.
No, let's not.
But a lot of people
Yeah.
were using really big words on there, right? And I said, you could take that. Yeah, you could take that big word and I could write another word, 10 words to define what I mean by that word. And you could write 10 words to define what you mean by that word, and they won't match. So I've got 2 words here for you that would be useful for you to give me a definition of, right?
Let's do this. Go on. Steve's game show. Let's go.
Question 3, right? Of 5.
Yeah.
From denial to divinity.
Yes.
Right? So I don't know how big a step that is, but it'd be useful if you could define for me, so I could understand it, what you mean from going from denial to divinity. What do you mean by that phrase or statement?
Gorgeous question. Thank you to your sister and you and your wife and your daughter. That's amazing. So denial to divinity. So it's really, really simple. Okay, so all the teachings in the world will have me believe that I've just got to go up a big long mountain and do a million squadrillion hours of meditation, hang upside down, do loads of mantras, etc., and fast and eat plants or whatever, right? To get to achieve my state of divinity, which is my state of truth. Okay, and I say, hey kids, it's easier than that. It's just a case of not denying and just being with what is here. Being with what is here. A true definition of mastery is the ability to see something as it really is. Okay, so not as society wants it to be, not as I want it to be, but as it actually is. Like there's a tree, it's got a trunk and it's got leaves. So if there's something there, such as anger, which is my favorite example because it's the most illegal expression. It's so denied, especially parents to children. Come on, little Johnny, stop crying. You stop making a fuss. You have to be happy. We're on holiday, right? Everything that's not okay and fine is pretty much illegal. So when I allow myself just to be how I am, that is my state of divinity. It cannot be any other way. It cannot be any way. Because reframing that, to believe that a state of divinity or a state of enlightenment is only when I'm like this and Om and at one is not true. It's not true. It's just being in this moment without any resistance to what is there. So if there's a big scary monster in front of me that's a threat, it's a really legitimate, real experience to feel frightened, for example, to have fear.
Okay, so if we apply this to men in particular, then.
Okay, go on.
So there'd be a lot of men who say, well, hang on, how's that sit with my wife saying I need to sign up for an anger management course? Because I lose it a lot. So how does it sit with, when we're interacting with other people? Is this something it's okay to be angry with ourselves but not with others? Or how does that work with this anger thing?
So absolutely. So anger will erupt. Like it's anger is fire energy. It's like a volcano. Yeah. So if it's not acknowledged what is causing the anger, then it will erupt. And the rule really of everything, which is very beautiful, is do no harm. So don't hurt other people. So if I see, why can I go to the supermarket and deliberately trigger myself for a laugh? It's because I've processed lies.
Okay.
And being betrayed, I've processed that. So I can go there and I can witness it and just laugh.
Okay. So you said you've processed that. So again, how could I begin to process or follow that route then? How do we all start to do this?
That's a really good question.
Because you've had your experience.
Everything that arises. Okay. Everything that arises. So what's made my life really, I've spent tens of thousands of pounds on therapy, right?
Right.
I could have saved all my money, right, by just doing this one thing. Just whatever arises, whatever thought or emotion that arises, treat it with the dignity and respect that it deserves. Okay?
And
so
how do you know you're doing that?
That means not denying it. So that means not saying I want to feel different to that. It means not denying. So for example, if it's anger, again, just to get interesting and go, hello, anger, I see you. Tell me what you need to tell me.
Okay.
So everything that arises, respect it. And then sooner or later, the scale will tip. That's what's ailing me and what's hurting me so badly will not need to hurt me anymore, because it knows that I respect it and I'm looking at it in the eye and saying, I'm not going to go and be busy and ignore you now. I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen to you. Tell me. I'm here and I'm listening. That's it. You've just saved yourself £100,000 of therapy.
Yeah,
Do that every time. Every time. Then we make friends with everything.
So is it a bit like, so to make sure I'm getting clarity on this, I used to work with a guy. It's irrelevant that he was American, but he was American, and he was very rah-rah. And I knew his life, as you would put it, he had the T-shirt SHIT, right? Everything was like a mess. His wife had left him, his daughter was an alcoholic, he had money problems, whatever. We'd turn up and do these workshops, whatever. And you'd say to him, how are you? And he'd go, I'm fine.
Awesome.
Things are great, right? But I think, so my view of this, if I was using my metaphor, I'd go, do you know what? There's some weeds in the garden, and it's important to recognize there's some weeds in the garden, right? And to look at them and go, there's some weeds in the garden, right? And it's really annoying me. And I might need to feel sorry for myself for a while, and I might need to wallow. And then at some point,
completely.
Is that what you're saying?
Do you know what? When I feel like that, I get my guitar out and I play and sing. This is the best self-pity song, Everybody Hurts by REM.
Oh, God. Right?
Yeah. That ticks all the boxes, and it makes me feel so good because I've acknowledged the grief. Because everybody hurts. Go on,
got two more questions.
Keep going. Right. You're doing amazing. Let's go, champ.
Well, you're not doing bad yourself. Right.
Thanks.
Here's the next one, which sort of ties in with what we're talking about. We might go a bit deeper, right?
Let's go deep.
Again, some big words here, so we have to make sure we're working on the same definition here, Maria.
Give me big grown-up words. Come on. I can speak 6 languages. Let's do this.
So, I know you're going to say yes, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think it's important to be authentic self, to be honest and even vulnerable in life in general and in business in particular? Because I think people can sometimes do some of those things at home, but not at work, right? So being authentic, honest and vulnerable, because one of the messages that comes out loud and clear from the other authors in this book is the need for men in particular to be more vulnerable. I think women tend to, I'm generalizing wildly here, women tend to be better at that. So how important is it for us to be authentic, honest and vulnerable, particularly, obviously, like, but at work as well? Because you don't seem to see that a lot at work, do you? What do you reckon?
It's 100% important. So I used to teach leadership. I taught it for 10 years internationally, but mainly in Spain. We had a big contract with Telefonica and Santander Bank and Heineken and Toyota. And I used to teach people to be vulnerable and honest because in business, what's that about? It's about selling stuff, more stuff, either products or services. Okay? People buy when they feel, and any salesman will tell you, or woman, person, will buy or will be called to an action when they feel an emotional connection. An emotional connection is created when a human being or even an animal or a puppy is being vulnerable. There's something very powerful, for example, that happens when we cry, when we have an emotional physical response in the body. So why is it important to be vulnerable? Yes, of course, in life. Like, it makes my marriage a 10 out of 10 because we're always honest with each other. That's at home. In business, absolutely. Well, if you're interested in having an authentic business that is based on honesty, then vulnerability is important. Now, sadly, most businesses are not motivated by that. They're motivated by profit and by working people into slavery. So then the vulnerability thing is not going to work for them. Okay, but for people that are conscious and are heart-centered and are interested in serving humanity, then vulnerability is important. Now, for men, that's a very, very big mountain to climb because this has not been modeled. It's not safe, and they don't know the roadmap. And that's important to show them that. And I do that with my husband as a woman in service to a man. I show him how to do that, and I hold space for him to do that.
Go on then,
And
give
he's
me a
rock
top.
star at it. He's really
Right.
good at it.
Let's
Aren't you,
pretend I was-
darling?
Yeah.
He
Let's
cries
pretend
all the
he's not.
time. He's brilliant.
He's not there really. No.
Yes, he's in bed.
Let's pretend, Maria, for one bizarre moment, I was
Not in
married to
bed.
you then.
Come, what's that? Say that again.
Let's
Pretend we're married.
Let's pretend. Yeah, right.
Oh,
So
brilliant. Okay.
you
You're
can
very
do me a bit of
handsome.
coaching. You
You're
can
very
give me a bit
handsome,
of.
by the
Yeah,
way.
shut it now. Stop it with the flattery. Right.
Go on then. Go
What
on.
would be one thing how I can show more vulnerability then? Because again, I'm generalising. In North of
really
England,
easy. Really easy.
Yeah.
No, I love Northerners. I'm an honorary Northerner myself.
Okay.
So, how to show vulnerability, how to teach you vulnerability or encourage you to be more vulnerable is to model it myself. So I'm going to model it by saying, hey, Steve, darling, you know what? I'm actually feeling really insecure right now because I did my hair and the roots didn't work, and I'm actually half listening to you and I'm half paranoid that my grey is on the camera. So just to let you know, it's not me being weird with you. It's just that I've got a little bit of a worry going on with myself about this thing. So just to clear the space, just in case you thought I was angry with you, it's that. There you go.
Great. Good.
How's that make you feel?
It's great. It makes me feel great, doesn't it? But also, it's brilliant because it's as simple as taking that mask off again, isn't it? Really. Again, we've talked a lot.
Well,
on some of the other shows on here. If you call this a show, let's call it a show. Why not? We've had men talk about, one of the authors talks about, men who work in the construction industry, for example, which is very macho, and sort of being
I love
vulnerable.
builders.
Yeah. Well, being vulnerable there, So I think, maybe the role that women have to play, which is why you've got a chapter in the book, is to model it for us, really, because we have to learn how to do it, right? Because we've been taught
so much, and not to be mangry, not to hate men so much.
Right.
Seriously.
Right. We're running out of time.
I love and respect men so much that I'm interested in holding that space.
Good. We've got time for one more question then. If we've got a little bit of time left,
let's do it.
You can say whatever you like, really.
If we've got time after that, I'll sing you Everybody Hurts. Go.
Oh,
Final question. Let's go, champ.
Right. Now, again, I know what the answer to this is, because I know you're just going to go, well, of course, yes. But I'd just like to hear you. No, it's got no to do with ironing. It's not about me. Would you agree, Maria, that there's a strong connection between the mind and the body? The mind and the body.
Oh, that's a really good question. Not necessarily yes. Not necessarily yes.
So what's your views on it?
The body, as the creator of Body Intelligence Leadership Training, which I created myself, which is a somatic, body-based learning program. My body, your body, job is to keep you alive. Your body, my body, will never lie to you, and it will always communicate to you the truth, what you need to know in that moment for your optimum well-being. That's what my body does. An emotion arises energetically in my body, and it's interpreted by the mind. Then we've got the mind. The mind is a place where it has been influenced by all of the filters, multi-layered filters of conditioning, beliefs, and training and programming. So the body and the mind are singing from a very different page, actually, and that's a very important clue. So in answer to your question, not always. When they are in harmony, when there is calmness, relaxation in, for example, now my body is very relaxed, quite animated actually, quite playful, so is my mind. We're in balance. We're good. But if I was sitting here thinking, oh my God, how long is he going to go? I just really need the loo. I want to have some food. I want to watch telly. And I'm like, in my head, I'm going, yes, answering questions very intelligently. Then there's going to be and you're going to feel that too, because why? That's going to be inauthentic.
Right. So sometimes they're connected and sometimes they're not, is your answer. Is that right?
Mind and body. I would argue, and I'm going to be really outrageous, I would argue that most of the time they're not connected and they're not they are connected, but they're not
Yeah.
in a listening relationship. So it's like a bad toxic relationship where
Okay.
there's no listening. And it would be amazing if they just started to turn towards each other and just listen and see and go, I see that.
Cool. So listen, this is where we get a chance to say why people should buy this book overall, right? Get involved in this
Okay.
project.
Get
The first thing I
involved.
would say is, in case people aren't aware, of course, the profits from this are going towards My Dog, right? My Black Dog, which is a brilliant charity.
Yeah.
And what I love about that charity, and again, it's great when it's people who've earned the right. It's manned by people who've had an experience of mental ill health and depression and stuff, so they kind of come in from a place of knowing what they're talking about and having earned the right, if you like. So the book's going to be great. So the more copies of the book we can sell, the more we help that wonderful charity. But if there's a final thing in terms of what the message to men and why this is an important book to be published, what would you say the message is? Why is this book needed, and perhaps more so right now?
I think it's important to normalize feeling not okay and feeling not fine. And it's okay, it's human. And the problem with the world is this conditioning of I have to be all good, great, positive all the time. And I'm here to say, just be how you are, come as you are. And the more that message gets told by vulnerable, amazing men such as yourself, and the more that message gets held and supported and deeply seen by women who have also been through stuff, then that's all going in the right direction. Really, we're in this together.
And no more so than right now, right?
Yeah.
So that there's even bigger reason than ever, I think. I mean, this book should have been out years ago, perhaps you could argue, but there's an even bigger need, I would suggest. Well, great, you answered all my questions. That's really good. Well done. Right. Thanks to my researchers. Thanks to Maria.
Thanks to your researchers from
yes,
me.
Indeed.
Very, very good questions. I love those.
Yeah. And as you say, we're all in it together. So thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was wonderful.